point. So then I'll just get started. So hi, my name is Jacob Mize, and I'm the development director here at Mercy House. And I have on with me Lauren McGonigal. Lauren, want to say hi real quick? Lauren is
Hi,
our,
everyone. Hi, everyone. Good to see you guys.
Awesome. Lauren's our associate development director. She works on my team and does a lot of community outreach and helps in a number of really everything. And then we also have Timothy on. Timothy, why don't you just say hi and your title real quick?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Timothy Nguyen. I'm the Chief Program Officer here at Mercy House.
Awesome. Thanks, Timothy. So just to give you guys a little expectation of how today is going to go, this is, again, our first installment of our Help Them Home Zoomcast. And so I'm going to be leading off here talking a little bit about my journey in homeless services and you know, how I was able to make the jump from just kind of like dabbling in the homeless service field to really working full time in this area. And I want to talk a little bit about just, you know, what led me to do what I'm doing and all of the cool people that I've met on the way. And then I'm going to kick it over to Lauren and Timothy, and they're going to share a little bit. And then there's going to be a question and answers portion. So if you have any questions during the conversation, during someone's spiel, please just direct message the Mercy House user and send the question over to that way. We want to get through as many questions as possible. I can't guarantee we're going to get through all of them, but as many as we can, we're definitely going to try and do that. So, and then last thing I wanted to do is I've mentioned Help Them Home a little bit here. So Help Them Home is this big giving day that we're having in exactly a month from today, not a month, but 4 weeks. And it's going to be a 24-hour giving day where we're basically trying to help get support for a number of different projects and initiatives that we have going on. And I'll give a little bit more information about that towards the end, but we're really excited for that. So I guess without any more stalling, I'll just jump into it. So yeah, so I wanted to share a little bit about you know, what you can do as an individual when it comes to serving our homeless neighbors and our homeless community, because I feel like sometimes a lot of people feel like it's really daunting. Like we could drive, you know, 5 to 10 miles and see, depending on where we are, dozens, if not hundreds of people who are experiencing homelessness. And so one of the things that I wanted to do is kind of break that down and say that although it may seem like this insurmountable mission to end homelessness, we really do believe here at Mercy House that that we can end homelessness, and that there are a number of things that you as an individual can do to help us you know, end homelessness, but there also are some bigger structural, systematic things that also can take place to help ultimately end homelessness. So I again am the development director, and I've been with Mercy House for just about 6 years now, but my journey in the homeless services space actually started closer to about 10 years ago. And I was just a very bright-eyed, naive young person thinking that I could change the world and end homelessness. And so I started to, you know, do what most people do, which is I went down to Skid Row, which I think everyone, when they think of homelessness, if you don't know a lot about homelessness, you think of Skid Row. So that's what I thought of. And so I went down to Skid Row with a friend of mine, and we brought fruits and we bought a bunch of hamburgers, and we just went boom, 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 started passing things out, and just kind of felt like, oh yeah, like we're changing the world, we're doing it. And I think it was, you know, after probably a couple times of that, I started to quickly realize that this wasn't making the impact that I think I thought it was. It was well-intentioned, and I think most people, when they first kind of dip their toe in the proverbial homeless services pool, they think that anything they do is going to make the impact they think it is, and it's not always the case. And so what I quickly learned was that there are these bigger forces at play, and these, you know, these kind of more structural things that we need to be addressed, like affordable housing, which is obviously one of the key tenets of what we do here at Mercy House. And so I started working for another nonprofit, and I eventually made my way over here to Mercy House 6 years ago. And I found out that there are so many more ways that an individual can help. And obviously my first thing was volunteering. And so actually I volunteered with another organization. I ended up interning at Mercy House. And I was able to see that there's so much more, and really around two things, which is helping people increase their income and helping people find affordable housing. And those, I would really say, are the two big things. So, you know, over this journey of going from passing out, you know, food on Skid Row to working for Mercy House, I found that really getting connected with kind of the experts, or getting, not to say that we're experts, but getting connected with people who are doing the work in a more sustainable way is really what I found to be a more impactful approach. So that's my little bit about how I started, kind of getting involved. And so now I kind of want to kick it over to Lauren, who is our Associate Development Director. So Lauren, maybe talk a little bit about your journey and what you've done to impact homelessness.
Thanks, Jacob. So I am actually relatively new to Mercy House. I've been here for a year next month. So I'm super excited to celebrate that anniversary. But prior to my work at Mercy House, I was in the nonprofit space, in faith-based organizations, in higher education. And so for me, this journey has been really great because it's all kind of something that's new. And so, like many of you maybe on the call, I had to really start from square one and really see or really learn kind of what I believed about homelessness and what cycles were impacting it. And so that's been a really incredible journey. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that people want to help. People want to make a difference in the world, and people want to solve these crises. And for me, it was really great, starting on this journey a few months in. I was like, okay, I feel like I have my brain wrapped around everything, and I really want to start reaching out to my friends, reaching out to my family, reaching out to my social network, and really getting them involved, because I think that some of them will be really passionate about this as well. And it probably, like many of us, it's pretty scary to like put yourself out there as far as like, hey everybody, this is where I work, this is what we do, this is the social justice kind of action and mission that we're driven by. But I did it, and it was really incredible to see the response, to see the support. I see on this call, I have a handful of friends that I know have been kind of following that journey. And it's really just exciting to see people getting curious and interested. And so I just wanted to share a few brief examples. We here at Mercy House have a ton of different needs, but one of the most tangible needs is something called a welcome home basket, which is a basket for our guests who are moving into permanent housing and moving into maybe what is the first home that they've ever had on their own. And so, I posted something about it, and the response was truly incredible. And the thing that I love is that it was during COVID, during a time when everyone's kind of, isolated from one another and unable to volunteer in a variety of contexts. Kind of everyone's routines and stuff were thrown off, but people were just so ready to help and so ready to throw themselves, at whatever it is we needed. So I had, people from various fitness studios. I know my mom is on the call. Her, fitness studio donated hundreds of dollars worth of welcome home basket supplies. We had various church groups and community groups, all respond and say, hey, we're in, what do you need? We'll make it happen. But something that I really want to highlight is a friend of mine, just saw a posting and said, I want to help, let me see what I can do. And over the course of 2 hours, this friend raised almost $3.5 thousand on social media to purchase items for these welcome home baskets. And this friend is not, a celebrity or popular. I mean, this friend is just a normal person, and they just posted something, they made a video, and it was just remarkable to see the response. So I want to encourage you that it's not that hard. You can use what you have. You can use your social media platforms. You can use even a quick text. I've texted people, I've emailed, friends, and people are ready to help. People want to help. And so I just want to encourage you guys to use what you have. Don't be overwhelmed. Don't feel like there's no possible way you can make a difference. And just, take it in stride and use the things that you have right in front of you. And that's proven to be wildly successful for myself, for other people in the agency as well. And I'm just looking forward to the ways that we continually grow. I see a handful of folks here from Huntington Beach. The city of Huntington Beach and the community in Huntington Beach has been absolutely incredible. And all of them are using their platforms, using their email lists, using their social media. And it's been really great to see the way that they have been just really contributing to the shelter there, and then also to this overall mission of ending homelessness. So I wanted to give them a shout out, and just once again reiterate that it's so easy. Use what you have, and just see what happens after that. So with that, I think I will ping it to Timothy, who is on this call, and he's going to share a little bit about his journey, and then also some just thoughts that he has about this as well. Thanks, Timothy.
No problem. Good morning, everybody. My name again is Timothy Nguyen. I'm the Chief Program Officer over here at Mercy House. And I actually started at Mercy House for the first time. This is my second run through through as an employee here. But I started in 2010 on the development team, kind of in the fundraising world. Something that stuck out to me then and is part of what really called me back to Mercy House when I started at the beginning of or end of 2019 was this is an agency that doesn't take a small approach to homelessness. I think that there's a lot of value in giving somebody a meal, or there's a lot of value in providing a coat or a blanket or something to meet an immediate need. Those gifts, those interventions are definitely a really valuable part of who we are and what we do. Right? It's our mission to create a system that ends people's homelessness and restores to the people that are homeless their dignity, which is lost when they're staying in the streets. But the Mercy House goes kind of beyond those individual actions. And we really see homelessness as an issue that is systematic. It's not just many old individuals who are suffering, but rather it's homelessness is a problem that can be approached systematically and is something that is solvable at the same time. And those are kind of large and lofty words, but I think we believe that if we make the right alignment of resources that are available, we really can create a system of care that will create a flow from street homelessness into the system, which will connect folks to housing, which we believe is the ultimate solution to homelessness, right? So the system really takes place in three parts. There's the outreach component on the streets. There's a shelter component that takes place in shelter or in navigation centers, as we call them now. And there's the vital component of housing, right? That once somebody has their name on a lease and keys to their front door and a bed to call their own, they've left homelessness behind them. And that sounds like a really big goal. When you see a homeless person on the street, it's hard to envision the whole process that they might go through. But that's something that we've seen take place. It's something that we as an agency are invested in creating this entire system that engages people where they are in the streets, that comes to them regardless of whatever their background is, whatever maybe undiagnosed or untreated mental health issues, whatever addiction they're dealing with. Or whatever trauma they're living with. We're able to meet them where they are and engage them in a way that recognizes their humanity, their value as a person, and is able to connect them to resources and to services which allow them to really address those barriers and move forward into housing. Now, I understand that the kind of one of the points we want to discuss here in this webcast is that what role does an individual person play, right? Because I think you see an agency like Mercy House, you hear about an enormous system that I've just described. It's multiple programs, multiple agencies, multiple government entities, and you think, well, what can I do? What does an individual person do? And I think that one of the more well, obviously, if you have like a large sum of money, you can make a significant donation, and we could create a program, and we could grease the wheels of that system. But if that's not the position that you're in, what is something that you can do that is actually tangible. I think one of the things you can do is to actually know what's going on. A lot of conversations I have with people, it starts with what actually is out there, right? I think it's difficult to approach an entire complex issue like homelessness. And I think that we come to homelessness and we approach homelessness with a lot of assumptions that are founded in our experience, right? You may have encountered a homeless person who's really having about in their experience. Maybe they may be living with some undiagnosed, untreated mental health issue. They may be deep in their addiction, right? And those encounters can feel intimidating. That can give you a real negative assumption about homelessness. And I think that it's easy then to jump to a lot of conclusions. And I think that one of the bigger things we can do is really get some education about what is the system that's available and what is the approach to homelessness that actually works. And so let me tell you about what we've found and what actually national best practices and data indicates actually does work, right? So the outreach to homelessness is a complicated and really difficult job, right? And Jacob told us earlier about his experience. He started handing out, sandwiches and interfacing with folks on Skid Row. And we know from working with our outreach partners that engagements with street homeless takes multiple engagements before someone is willing to come into the shelter, willing to engage in our system of care, right? That's because when you're living homeless on the streets, it's really hard to trust somebody. Systems have failed you. Social safety nets have failed those people, and they're in a mode where they're thinking about their survival, the reactions that they're making, the behaviors that they display. They may not make a lot of sense to us, but they're moving from a place of self-protection, and so coming with that perspective, knowing that behaviors that we might otherwise think are erratic or unacceptable, those are things that are, there's a reason that might not make sense to us, but from a place of compassion, we can understand that those folks are enduring some trauma, and really be committed to do the hard work of those multiple engagements, to build a relationship, to build rapport, in order to engage the street homeless. Once folks are engaged and they come into shelter, in Orange County, we have a program called Coordinated Entry. It's a system by which we actually organize all of the publicly available housing resources, right? And we actually, the system is designed to measure the vulnerability of a person and prioritize their case, right? So that more vulnerable folks are given the most intervention, and maybe less vulnerable folks are connected to interventions that are less intense, right? And our role operating the shelter is to connect folks to that system, assess their vulnerability, and as best we can connect them to the resources that are available and the resources that they need. And I could actually probably talk for a very long time about this, but I don't want to go too far. I want to take a step back and say, what can you do? You can take a perspective that is compassionate, that you can seek out education pieces, right? I know that that there are things available through our staff. Our volunteer teams all go through some training. There are future coming webcasts about the homeless system and how otherwise to be engaged. But I think it starts with taking a position where you want to learn about homelessness, you want to learn about the needs in your community. And then I think, really, especially as COVID-19 is hopefully drawing to a close now, vaccines are becoming available, volunteer opportunities are going to become more and more available. And I want to invite you to come and volunteer with us, volunteer with or with another agency to really to come and see, to come and learn about the system, come and learn about the people, and get the experience of helping and serving those that are engaged in our programs.
That's really good, Timothy. You covered a ton there, and I really appreciate that. I think one of the things that you said that I would really recommend everyone on this call to do is regarding education. I mean, I get this question literally all the time. People always ask me, "Oh, I see someone who's homeless. Like, how do I get him into Mercy House?" So, I mean, I'm happy to give that answer, but I'll actually let you, Timothy, you could talk about, what does it look like for someone to go from the streets to getting into one of our programs? Because I think there's this misconception like, oh, you just pick up the phone, you call someone, boom, you're in. But that's not really the case, is it?
That's a great question. Oh, am I muted? No, I'm not. That's a great question, Jacob. And I want to say that starts, again, kind of with an education piece, right? Because the answer to that question is really going to vary specifically to your geography. Because of the way the shelter system is in Orange County, there's not really a walk-up shelter. So if you're engaging with a homeless person on the streets, in order for them to get into a shelter, they need to go through a referring partner. And there are lots of reasons for the bed reservation system, and one of those reasons is because each of the different cities or jurisdictions in the county, they want to fund their homeless shelter to specifically target their geography. So the way that they manage those is through referring partners, and each shelter program might have a different referring partner. There's a good bet that in Orange County that CNET is a referring partner to the shelter program that applies to geography, but that's not always the case. In other cases, you're going to have to work with either the city itself is going to have a referring an outreach team. So like cities like Huntington Beach and Costa Mesa, they have their own, the city's own homeless outreach team, and they work in conjunction with the local PD or with the sheriff's department or whoever's there, and in order to do that outreach piece and provide the referrals into different shelters. A good resource is 211. You can look up on 211 that they're kind of an information brokerage, if you will. They have a lot of a big database of what resources are available, and they're able to provide referrals to the referring agency based on that geography. But so kind of to answer your question, is kind of a question. It's like, so how do I get somebody into your program? Well, that depends on where that person is. And then from that point, you'll have to, the answer will vary on where specifically you are.
That's really helpful, Timothy. Thank you. And I think it's a really good clarifying piece of information, because again, people are always like, oh, I just gotta walk up and here's the address and Google the address and head on in. And unfortunately, it's not that way, but also fortunately, it's not that way. I think, we're happy to work with other people and collaborating with either city teams or city net or other organizations that may have a good pulse on that area of expertise, because we can't do everything, and we want to work with partners, and we want to work with local governments, and we want to work with businesses. And Lauren, I'm actually going to kick this to you because I think it segues back to what you do for a lot of your time, which is helping connect organizations to us. So obviously we've talked a lot about individuals and what they can do, but how can individuals work with whatever networks or communities they're already a part of to get connected to Mercy House? So let's talk a little about that.
Yeah, that's great. So there's tons of opportunities for you, like Jacob said, as an individual to get connected, but also for larger groups. So I'll just give a couple of examples. We have a group in Huntington that I work with really closely. That's just essentially an advocacy group, a group that has already been doing incredible work in the community long before Mercy House was ever there. And so our partnership looks like, being available when they have their meetings so that we can provide some education, provide some tangible, okay, here's what we need, here's how you can help. And we can really kind of steer, I don't want to say steer their organization, but steer kind of their emphasis to things that will actually really help, instead of them just guessing or saying, okay, we think this is what we need or whatever. I think that partnership is really beautiful because we're able to really give the actual, real-time needs. And so if you are part of an organization or even your business, I mean, we have a ton of workplaces that have come to us through an individual, through someone that says, I'm passionate about ending homelessness, I want to join forces with Mercy House. What do I do? How do I get my business involved? And we've had countless organizations from small businesses all the way up to Wells Fargo, giant banks, the Anaheim Ducks. We've had a crew from their staff, but organizations are a great kind of tool that we use for volunteering. And so a lot of the times people will say, okay, great, I'm going to get onto, or I'm going to, contact my workplace volunteer kind of organizer and make that happen. And so, that's an option as well. Community groups, church groups, there's so many opportunities. Like Timothy said, once we are, kind of over the hill of COVID, there's so many opportunities for those groups to come on site to help to, provide meals, provide activities, and then, like I mentioned before, even to provide tangible goods, tangible welcome home items. We have an incredible church partner that essentially every year asks us, what do you need? Some years we need beds, some years we need shower curtains, some years we need ping pong tables. I mean, the list is endless, but these different organizations you can really find whatever it is you're passionate about, whatever it is your sweet spot is. And Mercy House will work with you. I will work with you. Our team will work with you. We have a place for you. So if you're an individual that's connected to a larger organization, workplace, network, community group, we want to talk to chat with you and to connect with you. So my email, I'm sure, will be somewhere. I know that there's the email that you guys all received, but definitely don't wait. Connect with us today. Take that step, and let's see what can happen from there.
Thank you, Lauren. That's great. I think we were going to start Q&A in a little bit, but we have just had a ton of questions, and we could talk all day about what we think you want to hear, but I think that there are some really good questions kind of popping up in the chat. So to jump onto one quick thing though that Lauren had mentioned, we will be doing a recap email to everyone who's on this call, everyone who signed up, about just what are some next steps you can take, and really both answering some of these questions here that we're going to get to, but also who to connect with about a number of things. And again, just to piggyback on one more thing that Lauren said, we really can almost use anything. I mean, we have people moving into homes who, again, they potentially, this might be the first time they've ever lived on their own as an adult, or it could be that they've spent at least 5 to 10 years on the streets and they literally don't have anything. And that could mean that they might need pots, pans, a plunger, shower curtains, blankets, sometimes clothes, paper towels, toilet paper, like literally the list goes on, and it really can go on forever. So if you have literally anything that you could think of, you're like, yeah, I have this extra thing, or typically newer items too, but or also we do just a quick little plug here. We do fundraising events and auction off items. So I actually see someone on the call who has given their Duffy boat to give a Duffy boat ride that we've been able to auction off and raise money so that we can continue to provide the direct services. So, I mean, truly, just reach out to us and connect, and we can always be creative to find something for you. So, on that note, I think I'm going to go into some of these questions, and either Lauren or Timothy or myself, whoever if you want to jump in on this, just feel free to flag me down and talk. So I think one of the questions we got was about regional support. Obviously, I think we have some people on this call who are all over the place. We operate, Mercy House operates really all across Southern California at this point almost, and in Arizona. So you may be joining us from one of our other regions, either Kern County or in the Inland Empire or Ventura or LA. So very broadly, Timothy, I'll give this one to you. If someone's trying to find out what resources exist in their community, again, in any one of those communities I just rattled off, where would they start?
That's a real good question. I gotta say that unfortunately that there's not like one answer to that, right? It's got to vary from community to community. So for example, in Kern County, there's an agency called is it the Bakersfield Kern Regional Homeless Collaborative? And they kind of hold a lot of the information about the different resources that are out there. And they're kind of organizing a lot of the publicly funded homeless resources. In the Inland Empire, our main presence is in the city of Ontario. And so you could reach out to um, our Ontario Access Center, or maybe the City of Ontario. In Orange County, we've discussed, that we have 211 Orange County. I think 211 exists largely in many places as kind of a phone. It used to be like a phone number you could call for information about social services. And there may be various websites and those kinds of things. But where to look is going to depend often on the geography. And even most of the cities that we're in, the city themselves will have, if you go to the city's website, there should be some information about what the homeless response is locally, like really hyper locally, and they should be able to list, how what resources are there, how can someone access, for example, a shelter, who is the referring partner, that kind of information should be listed.
Awesome. Thank you, Timothy. And that actually, what you mentioned about 211, that was another question that we got. What is 211? So I have been working with 211 for a long time now because, again, I have done homeless services in kind of every capacity at this point now. I've worked as an outreach coordinator for both Mercy House and another organization before I came to Mercy House. And I was also a case manager, and I've worked a lot in the shelters when we needed it. So I feel like I'm very, very familiar with 211. And so 211 is two options to get a hold of them and find out some different resources. So there is obviously I'd say old school way of picking up your phone and hitting literally 211 and hitting call. And that is one way that you can get a hold of an operator and ask them, what resources exist in my particular area for someone. Because just as a quick note, because every person's experience is so individualized and different and unique, they may need to ask some clarifying questions. So, if let's say we were to meet someone who's homeless, my first question would be, okay, well, where did you sleep last night? Because the definition of homeless can be kind of broad, and it can mean different things to different people. It could mean I crashed on my buddy's couch, or it could mean I slept in my car, or it could mean I slept in a shelter or a motel that I didn't pay for. So because of all the different definitions of homelessness, there's some clarifying questions that need to be asked. And that's why 211 is so helpful, because it can kind of dig down into some of those questions. So again, when I meet someone who's homeless, experiencing homelessness, I first ask, where did you sleep last night? And that'll give me an indication of, okay, they meet this criteria. And then it would be, what kind of program are you looking for? Do you want to live on your own? Do you want to live in a shelter? Do you want to, looking for just rental assistance? And so I really could go down the list, but there's a number of clarifying questions that would need to be asked. And that's what's so great about calling 211 is they'll ask those questions, and you don't need to be the expert, and you don't need to know, oh, their income level is this, and so I know they'll qualify for this, because that's just, it changes so frequently. And I mean, I'm not even sure that I could confidently walk someone through that process right now. But so that's 211. And the other way to get 211 outside of calling them is to just go to 211, and typically whatever county you're in, they'll have an option. So here in Orange County, it's 211oc.org. You go there and it gives you just, there's a box for this type of service, or this type of service, or this type of service, mental health services, or legal issues, or food pantries, that kind of thing. So it will still help kind of narrow things down a little bit there. But again, you don't have to be an expert. And so I'd recommend 211, like I'd recommend anything else. And again, that's here for Orange County, they have it, but I know they have it in LA County. I'm confident they have it in a number of other regions as well. So that is 211. I have another question here about how do I get groups involved? So I know Lauren touched on this a little bit. Lauren, maybe you could expand a little more about what the next steps are if you have a group that wants to get involved, either volunteering or donating.
Yeah, so we have on our department, in our department at Mercy House, we have a team specifically that their entire focus is community engagement. So they're dedicated to working with your group and working with whoever it is that wants to come either volunteer or provide donations, and they're kind of your point person, and we make it really easy, and so hopefully in the recap email they'll just provide some emails, but for the city of Huntington Beach, it's myself, and then all other Orange County is a gal on our team named Vanessa. We have a gentleman named Victor out in Kern County, and then we are hiring our community engagement specialist out in Ventura County. But Mercy House makes it really easy for there to be one point person for you to email and really get all your questions answered, all the logistics figured out. And so, yeah, that's really the easiest way. I will say on this call, because it sounds like people are interested, which is really awesome. Our volunteer opportunities are a bit limited just because of COVID, but that is not the case. Usually we have tons of opportunities and tons of just ways that you can serve, like I said. So don't be discouraged if you reach out and someone says, oh, we don't have any opportunities. That is not the norm. And we're hoping now that we're moving into, at least in Orange County, into a better tier, the orange tier, that we can open those sooner rather than later. So yeah, we make it really easy. One person, that'll be your contact, and they will kind of inform you of all of our policies, what you need to do, and get you started either volunteering or even making a donation. Donations can happen whenever, and we make it really easy as well. And that's all kind of our community engagement team. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Great, thank you, Lauren. I think this question, I'll go to Timothy. It's about our outreach services. So as a part of your outreach, do you have people that go out one-on-one and qualify and move and help people kind of, like hold their hand through the process of getting into housing? And if so, can you talk a little bit about what that looks like for our outreach team who kind of have that training and specialization of moving someone from street homelessness to housing?
So the answer to that question is briefly yes, right? So our outreach workers who are engaging with the street homeless in the community, they do engage with homeless folks, one-on-one or two-on-one, that we just send them out in pairs, and they will provide them with a whole slew of services, and that really depends again on the specific needs of the person, right? So our teams are trained to engage the homeless people within the context where they are. And ideally we want to connect them to, well, we're going to create multiple plans for what is their plan to get into housing, right? We might have plan A, we'll get into a shelter, we'll address your vulnerability and needs there. From the shelter, we could get into some other housing program. We might have plan B, maybe we'll reconnect you with a family member. You've got a family member in another state or something. We can facilitate some reconnection, and we can provide some resources to provide you with transportation to make that connection. We have plan C, we might be able to identify that they're living with some disability. They may qualify for some benefits. They may qualify for housing subsidy or housing voucher. Maybe they don't want to live in a congregate shelter, but we're able to maybe put them in a hotel for a short period of time and work with them, do some benefits advocacy, connect them to those housing resources, and are able to move them on from there. That journey looks different from every person. It may be that outreach worker that works with them the whole time, or if they engage into a shelter, right, they're going to be paired with a worker in the shelter. So they're going to do a warm handoff from the outreach worker to the shelter worker in that kind of thing, so that the outreach workers can continue to do their work and outreach on the streets, and the shelter workers will continue to do their work with those clients in the shelter.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Timothy.
Oh, thank you.
All right, here's a fun one that I think I'll take my first stab at it, and then if anyone else wants to come save me and answer after me, please feel free to hop in. But one of the questions is, what do you do when you see someone panhandling? So there's another question that I get all the time. And so I have a little bit of an answer. I can't say that this is the official correct answer, and it's right for everyone. But again, this is, I think, my best stab at it. So, being that I've worked a long time in this industry, my views on this have gone back and forth pretty regularly and often. And I think that where I'm at right now is, typically I don't give money to people who are asking for cash on the streets. I don't think that's necessarily the blanket thing that everyone has to do. But I feel that a lot of times when people give money, they're acting, maybe potentially they could be acting out of guilt, or feeling they need to, or they don't want to be seen a particular way, or probably more often than not, they're giving money because they genuinely want to help and they don't know what to do. They know that they have a couple of dollars in their pocket, and they know that giving a couple of dollars to someone who, when they don't necessarily need it, could be a help to someone. And so there's a wide variety of reasons that someone might give money in cash to a panhandler. But by and large, my recommendation is, if you feel in your heart that you should be doing more for people on the streets, which my argument is that we should, what is the way that we can have the most impact? And my argument is that's to partner with organizations that are doing the work, partner with people like us who are building housing and putting people in shelters, and going out with specialized teams to figure out what the next steps are for someone who's living under an underpass. Partner with, or if you feel more inclined to working with domestic violence shelters, helping women fleeing intimate partner violence, and you want to help in the shelter that way, then find those organizations. Or if transitional age youth is your thing, then support that. But overall, again, my recommendation would be to find an organization that you trust and you feel confident in, and support them and help build up their capacity so that they can really truly make the larger impact. But again, hear me loud and clear. I don't think that giving cash to a panhandler is wrong. I've definitely done it. Sometimes for good intentions, sometimes because I wanted to sleep better at night. But sometimes it's the right thing to do, and sometimes partnering with these larger organizations that are doing the work might be the better thing to do. But Timothy or Lauren, do you want to hop in and field this one as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think you touched on something that helps me to address this circumstance, right? Because I think we've all encountered, a panhandler or something like that, someone who's asking for something, and I think for me personally, what's really made a difference in my ability to address that situation is to come prepared, right? To come having given thought to it in advance, right? So if we were caught by surprise by someone who's asking you for something, then those are those moments where you may feel a tinge of guilt, or you may feel some need to respond, right? So what I've done kind of in my own life, I drive a Toyota Tacoma that has kind of an awkward cup holder cut out in the door. It's totally inappropriate to put a drink in there because it's the side of the door. So if you turn it, whatever you put there's going to spill for sure. But so instead, I keep energy drinks there, or Gatorade or something, because if it's, especially driving around on a hot day in California, it's really easy to feel a bit of compassion for someone who's on the side of the road. And I think that there's value to being able to say, here's something to drink, that might provide some relief immediately. It eases the tension of that moment where someone's asking me for something, and there's a bit of controversy over whether should I give money, should I have some people are okay with that, or should I give a gift card? Some people, if you want to give a food gift card or something, but I think something that that can be helpful is if you are ready, right? Or if you want to make the decision not to engage with someone in that situation, then you've been thoughtful about that, and I don't want to engage with somebody who's trying to solicit something on the side of the street. Then make that choice and plan on that choice. But if for me personally, being able to have something to be prepared for those kinds of interactions, and understanding that that's a small act of compassion that can help somebody a little bit that day. day. But I think that really to point back to what we're doing on the larger picture, to really help a person on the street is to be part of the larger system that creates a flow for all the people who are on the street to come into housing.
And then I'll just say both incredible suggestions, and something I agree fully with both of them, and try to always have, something to offer. And like Jacob said, there's been moments when that has been money. There's been moments when that has been water. There's been moments when, I say, hey, I don't have anything, but can I grab you a sandwich from inside, or can I, grab you a meal? What would you like? But just something that, and hopefully this isn't, too shocking of a reminder for us, but a smile goes a long way, and here at Mercy House, we believe in the dignity of every single human being. And I think for so long, and maybe it's a societal thing, or maybe it's just growing up in Orange County, I don't want to blame anyone, but I feel like I was told, oh, the best thing to do is ignore them, don't look them in the eye, just walk past them. And I got to a place, even before working at Mercy House, but especially since working at Mercy House, where I just understood that honestly, sometimes a smile can change a person's entire day. A smile can make them feel like a human. A smile can remind them that they are a person, that they have worth, that they have value, that they are important, even if they don't feel that way. And so to me, if I can't offer anything, I always say, hi, how you doing? I hope you have a great day. And that's me personally. I mean, you might not feel comfortable with that, but I have never once had an experience that's caused me to regret that decision. And like I said, I mean, to see someone, to look someone in the eyes who maybe hasn't had a conversation with another person in days, in weeks, in months is, I don't want to say it makes me feel good. I mean, it does make me feel good, but there's just something that happens to be able to provide someone that dignity. So just remember, our homeless friends are our friends. They're people too. They have a story. They have, however it is, they ended up there, but sometimes a smile can change the course of their day. So that's something that I would love us all to remember.
That's great, Lauren. Thanks. We have two more questions that I'm going to try and squeeze into one, and I think I can answer it. And so, two separate questions being one, how do you become an outreach worker, and do you need a college degree for that? And then a second one was with regards to outreach. Do you think the majority of folks on the street are aware of those resources? So, starting with the outreach question, HR, our Human Resources, is not on this call. They might have a different answer, but I know that most, or maybe Timothy actually, what are you about to say, Timothy? Go for it.
I was going to say, we don't require a college degree to be an outreach worker. Whenever we have open positions for outreach workers, we usually post our job openings on Indeed. And, a lot of our job openings get filled kind of by word of mouth too. So if you know somebody, or if you're volunteering for us, you can talk to the folks that you are working with about inquiring about any openings in the field of outreach, or on our other teams as well.
Well, there's the official answer. So, and I can actually attest to that, because I know that my first job in this field was as an outreach worker, and I didn't have a degree. I hadn't even finished my associate's degree yet. And so I was still very much in my early stages of college, and I was put on staff at a nonprofit. So, and then when I came over to Mercy House, I hadn't finished college yet either. So I know that the thing that we're looking for most is people who have a passion and heart and care really deeply about this community. So that's that portion of it. The other portion of the other question about are most people aware of the services or resources or 211? I think it's a combination. Again, in the same way that every single person is unique and has different experiences and knowledge and understanding of things. Similarly, every single person may or may not know about all the different resources. But I know that my experience as an outreach worker, they may have known about 211, but a couple different things could have happened. One is they could have used 211, got confused, and never went back. Or they could have used 211 and tried a couple different resources, and none of them just happened to work for them because of just miscellaneous reasons, and so then they never went back. Or they use 211 very frequently, and they find that there's a lot of helpful resources there. It really does vary. That's definitely a part of the education piece when engaging with folks who are homeless is to think about the fact that just because they know about a resource doesn't mean that they're willing to use it, because there's a real chance that they had a bad experience with it. I'll just kind of close with this, unless Timothy wants to add something else about it. But everyone knows about the DMV. I'm sure we've all at least one time or another gone to the DMV, get our driver's license, California ID, something. I was working with someone who was homeless once, and they were like, I don't want to get my ID, even though they needed their ID to use to do all these other services. And so I said, well, just, obviously go to the DMV, get it. And they're like, oh, I went to the DMV and they kicked me out because, I had my dog with me, or there was something like they had a really bad experience. They didn't want to go back to the DMV. So they knew what they had to do, but they were scared to use it because of either stigmatization or a bad experience or a number of other reasons. And so my job as an outreach worker was to help coach them through saying, the process, being like, I'll go there with you and I'll walk you through this process. And if something comes up that confuses you or frustrates you, let's before we just jump to, I'm never coming back to the DMV again. Let's try and just think this out a little bit. And I use the DMV, example, not to disparage our wonderful Department of Motor Vehicles, but because I think that we all can find some level of frustration with some things that we all have to do. But thinking about the fact that if you didn't get a good sleep last night and you don't know where your next meal is coming from, and you have a huge bag of everything that you own on your back, you could see how even some of the most mundane, normally just standardly boring or difficult tasks can be so much harder. So that's my little spiel about people knowing the resources / being able to actually access the resources. So on that note, we're about to actually land this plane. So I kind of wanted to say thank you to everyone, and thank you to Lauren and Timothy for sharing. And I also wanted to do a quick just informational about what we're doing with this series. So like I explained in the beginning, this is our Help Them Home Zoom series, and we have 3 more installments of this. So if you enjoyed this, please come back, and for the next 3 Wednesdays at 11 a.m. we're going to be doing different conversations like this, and at the end of it, I'm going to be explaining that this is all pushing us towards this big day that we have on April 28th, which is called Help Them Home. It's going to be a combination of 19 different homeless service organizations here in Orange County to raise collectively between all of us over $1 million for homeless services. So we're really excited. We have a goal of $50,000. And so there's a couple different ways that you can help us reach that goal. Again, not everyone has the ability to just go and write a check, and that makes sense. I can barely do that. But what we all can do is tell other people about what's going on here. We can tell other people about what Mercy House does. We can tell other people about all these other services that exist. We can tell other people about some of these misconceptions that people just standardly believe about homelessness. And we can also tell people about this campaign that we have coming up on April 28th. And we can do that either by word of mouth. You can text your friends, you can email people, you can go on our social media, Mercy House LC, either on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, and you can share the information that you see there to your networks to help promote this day of giving. It's a 24-hour day, and we're trying to raise all that money in the span of 24 hours, so fingers crossed. And one last note about it is that the other big thing that you can do is you can actually create a page yourself. So when we send out this recap email, we'll also send a little blurb about how you can make a page with your little picture, and maybe a little blurb about why you are supporting Mercy House, or maybe that you found information on this call to be helpful, and now you're sold and you want to tell other people about this. So again, that will all be sent out in a recap email. So thank you again for joining us, and thank you for supporting our mission to end homelessness. So I appreciate it, and I hope I can see you all next Wednesday at 11 a.m. for another conversation.